My name is Starlene Breiter. I am going to be sharing with you in this video the sacred geometry of vibration charts. And vibration charts, I'm going to be explaining to you what a vibration chart is and how we come to calculating or looking at a vibration chart, how we come up with a vibration chart. And I will be explaining to you how you can look at your vibration chart to understand a little bit about yourself too. So this video is for people that are brand new to astrology and just want to understand what it's about. And it's for people that are already astrologers that would like to know more about vibrational astrology. So, just to lay a little groundwork before we get started here, vibrational astrology is an evidence based system of astrology. It has a very extensive and researched framework, a foundational framework that is very straightforward and elegant to understand. So if you think about it for a moment, when you're looking at something and having someone or doing research yourself on something, you want to eliminate as many variables as possible from the equation so that you can get to the core essence of something. So in vibrational astrology, we look at this core, straightforward, elegant system that has the least amount of variables first, and then we will build upon those concepts. So it is something that is being built continually. And it is also something that we start from the ground and work up. To be a consultant of vibrational astrology, you do not need to know the whole mechanics of the research. That is left up to people such as myself and other researchers in the system of vibrational astrology. But you do not need to know that to be able to proceed forward with it. If you are a researcher, you would want to know that. I'm just letting you guys know how it's actually done, because if it wasn't elegant and it wasn't simple in that we were able to build upon itself, then all the variables would make it very impossible, if very difficult, if not impossible, to research. So that's something important to note. The modern research methodology that we use is research methodology that people would use in other systems of science, whether that be medicine or whether that be astronomy. Other systems of science use modern research methodologies such as what we use. So in this, to eliminate variables, we use charts that have what we call AA birth data. So AA birth data means that the birth data was recorded from a verifiable source, such as a birth certificate, or A data. A data is another grade. It's not quite as good as AA birth data. It would be more documented from, say, a birth record as opposed to a birth certificate. And then B data would be from memory, and C data would be from like a newspaper or something. So as you can see, the higher up in the letters that we go, the less confident we are in the timing of the birth. This is really important to have the AA birth data, because that when we get into these higher vibrations, these vibration charts, we are eliminating a variable. But when we get up in these higher vibration charts, we actually can be off with the vibration chart by quite a bit if we're off in the timing of the birth. So that's really important. So when we do this research, we're always looking at AA birth data or A data. Mostly it's AA birth data, but I have seen some projects done that was with A data. So that's an important key takeaway, because if we don't know the time of birth, it's difficult, if not impossible, to calculate the vibration charts. So this research that is done by these researchers, including myself, is presented at the Vibrational Astrology Conference in Gainesville on the first weekend of March every year. We've had 5 of these conferences so far, 5 years in a row, and it is a live conference in person. So if this is something you're interested in, please look us up and check us out, because it's an exciting weekend of exciting learning and understanding and exploration within the world of evidence-based astrology, which is really beautiful. You can also get to the conference page by going to vibrationalastrologyconference.com. And of course, all the links are in the description box. So, the key takeaways here is that astrology is modernized by the evidence based framework of vibrational astrology. It's really important to take that away. And the last thing I'm going to say about these key points on vibrational astrology is that David Cochran is the founder of vibrational astrology. He has dedicated his entire life to researching astrology, to learning about astrology, and he has taught many people about vibrational astrology. I am one of those people. I always like to give reverence to my teacher because that's very important to me. And so it's important for me to share with you that David Cochran is my teacher. And if you want to, you can find his YouTube channel will also be in the description box. He's made hundreds of videos, not all on vibrational astrology because he knows astrology like the back of his hand, probably even better. But he knows it very well. And he's made hundreds of videos over many years of time on YouTube that you can check out. So let's jump into this. So, a little note here to make is that vibration charts are also called harmonic charts. And they're also called harmonic charts because there are two different systems of astrology: vibrational astrology and harmonic astrology. They use the same chart. And the thing to note is that they're two different systems of astrology. So, vibrational astrology is a different system than harmonic astrology, but they both use the same chart, the same vibrational charts. Harmonic astrologers will call them harmonic charts. Vibrational astrologers will call them vibration charts. And I don't honestly know the difference or the nuances within harmonic astrology compared to vibrational astrology. I'm sure someone would be able to tell you that, but that would not be me because I'm not that familiar with harmonic astrology. But I do know vibrational astrology very well, and that is what I'm going to be talking about today. So if you hear someone say harmonic chart, know that that name is also vibration chart. So, how are vibration charts made? That's our first question. So the vibration chart is made by magnifying the natal chart. And a quick note to know is that vibration charts are not new. They're not something new. They're not something we made up, but they are derived from the natal chart. And they are magnified to the number of the vibration. So if you look at eighth vibration charts, the eighth vibration chart is the natal chart magnified 8 times. If you look at the fifth vibration chart, it is the natal chart magnified 5 times. And that's always the truth. That's if it's the 200 vibration chart, it's the natal chart magnified 200 times. That's how it works. So the concept though, like I said, it's not new. If you just think about for a moment something that most humans will be aware of, the full moon, right? We look out in the sky, the moon is full, we're like, wow, it's beautiful, the moon is full. What that means is that the moon is on one side of the earth and the sun is on the other side of the earth, making the moon appear to be full from our geocentric earthly perspective looking up into the sky. So from that perspective, the moon is full. When the moon is full, that looks like that is actually an aspect or part of a vibration chart. So I'm trying to get you to understand aspects here. That would be called an opposition because the moon and the sun would be on opposite sides of the sky to make the moon full. If the moon was new, that would mean that the sun and the moon are on the same side of the sky in the same degree, the same spot. I'll get into the aspects in just a moment, but that's an important understanding to make. So if you're looking at something as simple as the moon phases, the full moon, the new moon, all of the moon phases, that's actually looking at a very rudimentary beginning part of the vibration chart. It is not a vibration chart, but it is the beginning part of understanding a vibration chart. The reason I decided to do this video on vibration charts is because one of the questions I get more than anything is, what is a vibration chart? When someone says, oh, you're a vibrational astrologer, what does that mean? You know, they might know what astrology is, or they might have a hint of what it is, but this is to answer a question that many people ask me, what is a vibration chart? So I'm breaking it down for you guys in simple, easy to understand spots here. So a vibration chart is the natal chart magnified to its number. And the reason we look at vibration charts is because we get a greater level of clarity and detail about the planetary circuits or planetary patterns that we see than just looking at the natal chart. So if we want to go into detail and nuances, we can look at the vibration charts and we can see so much more than just looking at the natal chart. I will demonstrate that in the upcoming slides here. And a little fun fact, if you use any aspect in astrology, such as you look at the moon phases, the full moon or the new moon, then you are actually on your way to looking at a vibration chart. So point being here, I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, vibration charts and numbers freak me out, because I get that a lot too. No, that's not it. We can think of it from a different conceptual level. And that's what I'm trying to share with you guys. So let's back up just a little bit and explain what an aspect is. So we can think of an aspect as the cosmic sacred geometry. So what do I mean by that? So aspects are the measurements of the distance between two planets when they're projected onto the ecliptic plane. So the ecliptic plane is the path of the sun. We know that the sun rises in the east, crosses the sky, and sets in the west, like every day. That's like what happens. From our geocentric earthly perspective, it looks like the path of the sun, which is the ecliptic plane. It looks like the sun moves around the earth in a certain way. We know that the earth moves around the sun, but from our geocentric perspective, it looks like the earth rises in the east, sets in the west, and so on and so forth. And that makes our day. The planets also travel along that ecliptic path, but they are not always on exactly on the ecliptic path. That's an important note to make. They might be a few degrees north or a few degrees south. And so that we can calculate these planets and where they are, we project their place onto the ecliptic path. And then the aspect is measuring the distance from the planets projected onto the path of the sun, the ecliptic path. I'll explain to you in greater detail what aspects are on the next slides. But that is basically what an aspect is. In vibrational astrology, we use 3 or more planets to form what we call a circuit to understand a greater nuance of an energy that's being present in someone's life. We call them circuits. So 3 or more planet patterns are circuits. So what is a circuit? A circuit is created by 3 or more planets that are aspecting one another. And these circuits must be in the same vibration as each other, meaning they must be either hard aspects or soft aspects. They can't be both. And I'll explain to you why in a moment. So I'm giving you a visual because I'm really a visual person myself. This is a circle that is cut up into 360 degrees. This is not a chart, by the way. It's just a circle. And I'm doing this to break it down into really simple understanding of how we look at aspects. On the left here, I've explained the major aspects and the minor aspects, the hard aspects. I'm not going over the soft ones in this video. I will leave that for another video. So we're going to just look at hard aspects here. So an aspect is a fraction of a circle. If we look at this inner planet here, the lighter colored planet, that's Venus. And then if we look at the darker colored planet, that's Mars. As you can see in this demonstration here, Venus and Mars are both at 0 degrees, and that would be called a conjunction because that is a 0 degree. They're both at the same degree. If they were both at 10 degrees, that would be a conjunction at 10 degrees. So just understanding that. So here it is with Mars. Mars over here at 180 degrees and Venus over here at 0 degrees. That is 180 degree, and that is called an opposition. So if they're opposites, like the full moon, that's an opposition between the sun and the moon. Here we have Venus and Mars, opposition. It's 180 degrees separation from each other. Next, we have the square, which is 90 degrees from each other. So we have Venus over here at 0 degrees still, and then we have Mars at 90 degrees. This is called a square. And then we have the semi-square, which Venus is still at 0 degrees and Mars is at 45 degrees. So that is a square. Sorry, a semi-square. It's half of a square. So 45 and 45 is 90, right? So a semi-square is half of a square. And then we have what's called a sesquiquadrate. A sesquiquadrate is a square and a semi-square together. So a square is 90 degrees, a semi-square is 45 degrees. So that equals 135 degrees. And over here, you can see Venus at 0 degrees, and then you have Mars at 135 degrees. So as you can see, all of these aspects I mentioned are within 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8 of a circle. They're all within that beat of a circle away from each other. That's really important to understand because that will help you understand vibration charts. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is just a little review. Aspect degrees. Aspects are the distance between the planets when they're projected onto the ecliptic plane. I wrote down the exact degrees for these hard aspects. Conjunction 0, oppositions 180, squares 90, semi-squares 45, and sesquiquadrate 135. I also included the exact degrees of soft aspects, but I'm not going to go over them. I'm just sharing them for your knowledge. But I'm not talking about soft aspects in this video, but I did include them here for you. So the next thing we want to think about before we start building our chart here is what is an orb? So an orb is the degree of separation between the exact aspects, between the aspects being exact. What I mean by that. So if we have the sun at 0 degrees and then we have the moon at 1 degree, we would say that there is a conjunction, because a conjunction is both at the same degree, right? We would say there's a conjunction with a 1 degree orb. Likewise, if we have the sun at 0 degrees and when we have the moon at 91 degrees, we would say it's a square with a 1 degree orb. So you see? Or if we have the sun at 0 degrees and the moon at 95 degrees, we would say it's a square with a 5 degree orb. So 90, then there's the 5 degree orb. This is standard and normal in any system of astrology. The orb is the difference between it being exact and not exact. In vibrational astrology, we look at orbs that are 1 degree or less in a natal chart. I'm not saying that if you have a pattern or you have a planet that is 1 degree in 1 minute separation in orb, that it's not there. I'm just saying that to see the strength and to know that it's really something intense or something there, we would use a 1 degree orb or less because then we know it's really there for sure. And remember, as I talked about earlier, we try to eliminate as much variables as possible. So if we have a 5 degree orb or a 10 degree orb, that's not nearly as strong as if it was exact or 1 degree or less. So that's important to note for natal charts. In vibration charts, we use different orbs because the chart is moving faster. So for conjunction in a vibration chart, the orb we would allow would be up to 16 degrees. So I'm not saying if you have a planet at 0 degrees and another at 16 and another at 32, that all three of them would be conjunct. No, the one at 0 and the one at 16 would be, the one at 16 and 32 would be, but the one at 0 and 32 are not. We would limit that to 16 degrees. And the tighter that the orb is, the smaller that the orb is, the stronger that the energy is present in the person's life. That's important to know. And as you can see here, hard aspects, conjunctions, we have 16-degree orbs, oppositions 8, squares 4, semi-squares 2, and sesquiquadrats also 2. The soft aspects are listed there just for reference. So I have a question here. Let's think about this for a minute. And if you want, like, leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know what your answer is before watching the rest of this video. So the question is, do hard aspects in the natal chart show up in 8-5 aspects or in the 8-5 chart? Do they? Think about it. Do you think they do? Let's see. So in this chart here, if we look up in the 8th house, we have Mars and we have Neptune, and they are less than 1 degree apart from each other, as you can see. So that is a really tight connection between Mars and Neptune. And then if you look, Mars and Neptune also make a square to Venus. That is also really tight. You can see it's less than a degree square to both Mars and Neptune. And then if you look at Mars and Neptune making a sesquiquadrate to Uranus, which is also really tight. So that, and then Uranus goes back to Venus in a semi-square. So just to see this a little bit clearer, I took out all the lines and I showed you this. So I circled the planets I'm talking about here in green, and then I wrote the fractions just so we can kind of conceptualize this a little bit. As you can see, Mars and Neptune, they're conjunct, so there's not an eighth away from them. There's not that much space. They're less than a degree away, so we would say a conjunction. If you look at Mars and Neptune down to Venus, you can see that that's 2/8 of a circle away from each other. Now, yes, in fractions, we would boil that down to 1/4, but since the other aspects in this are eighths, we're going to stick with 2/8. As you can see, Mars and Neptune are 3/8 of the circle away from Uranus. And then Uranus is 1/8 away from the circle of Venus. So those are all in a pattern together, right? Let's go back to the natal chart of John Baldessari to look at that one more time. We can definitely see that all of these are aspecting each other. And you might be thinking, well, Starlene, we can see this in the natal chart. Why do we need to look at the 8th vibration chart? I'll explain that. You cannot see from the naked eye, because at least I can, because I'm not a mathematician, that the sun is actually involved in this 8th vibration chart. We can't, I can't see that. I would have to do, like, sit down with a pen and paper to do the math to see that. But if we look back at this chart, we can see that the sun is halfway between Uranus and Neptune. If you look on the left there, you see the direct midpoint structure, and that means the sun is in the middle of Uranus and Neptune by a 6-minute orb, which is very tight. We couldn't see that in the natal chart aspecting each other. And that's an important thing to think about. This is why we use vibrational charts, because we understand them and we get more information from using them. So let's look at the question we have again. Do hard aspects in the natal chart show in the 8th vibration chart? Yes, they do. Hard aspects are based on 1/8 of a circle. If the orb is 1 degree or less, they show up in the 8th vibration chart. Yay! All right, so this is John Baldessari's 8th vibration chart. Look at this. Mars, Venus, Uranus, Neptune are all conjunct. All of those that were aspecting each other in the natal chart are all conjunct in the 8th vibration chart. And again, you're like, why is this important, Starlene? Why do I care? I can see it in the natal chart. It's important because look what else it's doing. It's pulling in the sun. The sun is opposite that entire conglomeration of planets, that entire stellium of planets. So we can also see that the eighth vibration chart pulls in the sun and shows us that there is more to the story than just Mars, Venus, Uranus, and Neptune. And if you look, Mars, Venus, Uranus, and Neptune, the conjunction is just over 6 degrees. So that's a really tight conjunction. If you remember, I said a conjunction in a vibration chart would be 16-degree allowable orb. So 6 degrees is really tight. And as you look at the sun is opposite that group of planets, that stellium of planets, and it is very tightly orbed as well. It's only 1 degree and change away from the sun. So there is the sun opposite Neptune, Uranus, Venus, and Mars. So you see, this is a layer that were not able to visually see when looking in the natal chart, but in the vibration chart, we're able to see it. So the circuit in the natal chart brought in the sun in the 8th vibration chart. Okay, so let's review what we've learned. I think reviewing is really important. So vibrational astrology is an evidence-based system of astrology. Super important to know. Vibration charts are magnifications of the natal chart. They are not the real chart, but they are magnifications of the real chart. And that's why we use AA birth data, of course. The vibration chart is the natal chart magnified to the number of the vibration. For example, 8th vibration is magnified 8 times. Conjunctions, oppositions, squares, semi-squares, and sesquiquadrats in the natal chart might also appear connected in the 8th vibration chart if the orb is 1 degree or less. And circuits are 3 or more planet patterns, all making aspects to each other in the same vibration. To be a circuit, the planets must aspect each other through soft or hard aspects, but they cannot mix of the two. So let's look at another example. That's our review. So let's look for a circuit. Do we see a circuit in here? And that would be 3 or more planets in the same hard or soft aspects connecting to each other. Well, we see Jupiter making a square to the sun. That's pretty tight there. Look at how tight that is, Jupiter to the sun. I'm sorry, Jupiter to the moon. Jupiter to the moon is really tight there, not the sun. That's really Jupiter square the moon. That's really tight. But we also see the moon sextile to Neptune, and that's also really tight. Look at that. They're both 13 degrees. But the moon and Neptune are not a hard aspect. They're a soft aspect. This means that they are 60 degrees away from each other. So, and hard aspects and soft aspects do not mix with each other because they're on a different vibration, a different wavelength, if you will. So we do see that. And then we also see Jupiter making a quincunx to Neptune. And that is also tight. They're both at 13 degrees there. However, a quincunx is neither hard nor soft, and therefore it is not part of a circuit. So although it looks like these planets are in a circuit, they don't count as being in a circuit in this chart because they are of different different energies, if you will, different wavelengths. But we do see Mercury and Venus up here, and we see them, they're pretty tightly connected, Mercury and Venus. So the question I'm curious about is that, do you think any of these planets would be aspecting in the natal chart, in the eighth vibration chart? That's a curious question. And by the way, this is Johnny Depp's chart. I don't think I had mentioned that. All right. So this is Johnny Depp's eighth vibration chart. And remember, the golden rule in VA is in the natal chart, we look for 1 degree or less orbs. So we did see Mercury and Venus there that were conjunct in 1 degree or less in the natal chart. Now we're looking at the eighth vibration chart and they're still conjunct. Look at that. And what are they doing? They're pulling in the sun here. Look at that. They pull in the sun. Let's go back to Johnny Depp's natal chart. Do you see the sun aspecting Mercury and Venus at all? You sure don't. And like I said, I'm not a mathematician, so I wouldn't be able to actually know that they are aspecting each other in the eighth vibration chart without the eighth vibration chart, because I don't look at it and know the numbers and calculate them all in my head really quick. My brain doesn't work that way. So we can't see it in the natal chart, but when we look at the eighth vibration chart, we can see that the sun is opposite Mercury and Venus in the eighth vibration chart. Therefore, Johnny Depp has a circuit of the sun opposite Mercury and Venus in the eighth vibration chart. And this is part of his personality. This is part of him. And I think if you know anything about Johnny Depp, this does fit him on an interpretation, but I'm not even going to get into interpretations right now. So that's definitely a circuit that we see in the eighth vibration chart. If you remember, there was also the moon square Jupiter, which are conjunct each other in the eighth vibration chart. They were aspecting each other in a square in the natal chart. And so as we suspected, because they were in a tight aspect, they are conjunct each other. However, they're not pulling in a third planet. They are making a soft aspect, which is a green line, to Neptune, but it's very faint. As you can see, the line between Jupiter and between Neptune is very faint. So it is there, but it is not very strong. And so I, as a vibrational astrologer, I would lean to not interpreting that as quickly as I would interpret the Venus Mercury opposite sun circuit, because the Venus Mercury opposite sun circuit is stronger in orb. Okay, so this is Johnny Depp's eighth vibration chart. So let's just look at this for a minute. Let's ask ourselves how to see circuits in our eighth vibration chart. We had 2 demonstrations here, and I showed you how you can see circuits looking at your natal chart and circuits looking at your eighth vibration chart. If you would like to look at your eighth vibration chart and see if you have circuits in your eighth vibration chart, what you can do is first look at hard aspects in your natal chart. Do you have hard aspects that are less than 1 degree in your natal chart? So oppositions, square, semi-square, sesquiquadrate. Look at those aspects in your natal chart. If they're 1 degree or less, you probably will find them in your eighth vibration chart. And then look in your eighth vibration chart and see if those 2 planets pull in another planet. And then you would be able to start understanding your eighth vibration chart. So basically, number 1, looking for hard aspects in the natal. Number 2, look at the eighth vibration chart. And number 3, look for circuits. Number 4 is use the energy process of the planets. So the energy process of the planets is a whole nother video, which I will explain. And I also invite you to look at David Cochran's YouTube channel, because he has talked extensively about things like the energy process of planets on his channel. So until I do a video on the energy process, you're welcome to look at David's channel. And I will tell you, when you do that, you look at the energy process of the planets, you will understand that circuit in the eighth vibration or whatever vibration you use. I'm using the eighth vibration as demonstration in this video. So the question now is, what does the eighth vibration mean? The eighth vibration is a fundamental driving force of your life. It is your need to accomplish and to achieve. It is your drive. So when we think about the eighth vibration being all the hard aspects, then we would think about the eighth vibration energy being one of drive, one of push, one of energy towards accomplishing something. And that's what the eighth vibration means. If you would like to look up your vibration charts, so if you don't have the software to do it yet, you can do it online for free. I'm leaving the link to do that in the description box, so you can look up your natal chart, and then you can look up your eighth vibration chart or any other vibration chart that you would like. I will leave that information in the description box so you can find that. And you can look and see, where do you have planets that are connecting in what vibration? Each one of these vibration charts means something else. It has a different energy, a different flavor, if you will. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but if you start to unpack and understand vibrational astrology and looking at these circuits and these planetary patterns in these vibration charts, you will then start to be able to understand yourself in a more nuanced and specific way than just looking at your natal chart alone. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far to the video, I am grateful to have you. And I definitely invite you to come to the Vibrational Astrology Conference. The information is on the page in front of us, March 1 through 4, 2024. I will be speaking on 2 different topics. One I'm doing with Michelle Love, my spirit soul star sister. We're going to be talking about the Pleiades, which are stars, actual fixed stars. And then I'm going to be doing another research project and presenting there on something much different and unique. If you go to vibrationalastrologyconference.com, you can see the lineup and the information on what everybody is doing. And again, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.